understand his struggling and threw him away. And the king paced up and down his cavern more angry than before. Finally he rushed to his big gong and made it clatter like a fire alarm. Kaliko appeared again, trembling and white with fear. "Fetch my pipe!" yelled the king. "Your pipe is already here, your Majesty," replied Kaliko. "Then get my tobacco!" roared the king. "The tobacco is in your pipe, your Majesty," returned the Steward. "Then bring a live coal from the furnace," commanded the king. "The tobacco is lighted, and your Majesty is already smoking your pipe," answered the Steward. "Why, so I am," said the king, who had forgotten this fact; "but you are very rude to remind me of it." "I am a low-born, miserable villain," declared the Chief Steward, humbly. The Nome King could think of nothing to say next, so he puffed away at his pipe and paced up and down the room. Finally he remembered how angry he was, and cried out: "What do you mean, Kaliko, by being so contented when your monarch is unhappy?" "What makes you unhappy?" asked the Steward. "I've lost my Magic Belt. A little girl named Dorothy, who was here with Ozma of Oz, stole my belt and carried it away with her," said the king, grinding his teeth with rage. "She captured it in a fair fight," Kaliko ventured to say. "But I want it. I must have it. Half my power is gone with that belt," roared the king. "You will have to go to the Land of Oz to recover it, and your Majesty can't get to the Land of Oz in any possible way," said the Steward, yawning because he had been on duty 96 hours and was sleepy. "Why not?" asked the king. "Because there is a deadly desert all around that fairy country, which no one is able to cross. You know that fact as well as I do, your Majesty. Never mind the lost belt. You have plenty of power left, for you rule this underground kingdom like a tyrant, and thousands of Nomes obey your commands. I advise you to drink a glass of melted silver to quiet your nerves, and then go to bed." The king grabbed a big ruby and threw it at Kaliko's head. The Steward ducked to escape the heavy jewel, which crashed against the door just over his left ear. "Get out of my sight! Vanish! Go away! And send General Blug here!" screamed the Nome King. Kaliko hastily withdrew, and the Nome King stamped up and down until the general of his armies appeared. This Nome was known far and wide as a terrible fighter and a cruel, desperate commander. He had 50,000 Nome soldiers, all well drilled, who feared nothing but their stern master. Yet General Blug was a trifle uneasy when he arrived and saw how angry the Nome King was. "Ha! So you're here!" cried the king. "So I am," said the general. "March your army at once to the Land of Oz, capture and destroy the Emerald City, and bring back to me my Magic Belt!" roared the king. "You're crazy," calmly remarked the general. "What's that? What's that? What's that?" And the Nome King danced around on his pointed toes, he was so enraged. "You don't know what you're talking about," continued the general, seating himself upon a large cut diamond. "I advise you to stand in a corner and count 60 before you speak again. By that time you may be more sensible." The king looked around for something to throw at General Blug, but as nothing was handy he began to consider that perhaps the man was right, and he had been talking foolishly. So he merely threw himself into his glittering throne and tipped his crown over his ear and curled his feet up under him and glared wickedly at Blug. "In the first place," said the general, "we cannot march across the deadly desert to the Land of Oz, and if we could, the ruler of that country, Princess Ozma, has certain fairy powers that would render my army helpless. Had you not lost your Magic Belt, we might have some chance of defeating Ozma, but the belt is gone." "I want it!" screamed the king. "I must have it!" "Well, then, let us try in a sensible way to get it," replied the general. "The belt was captured by a little girl named Dorothy, who lives in Kansas, in the United States of America." "But she left it in the Emerald City with Ozma," declared the king. "How do you know that?" asked the general. "One of my spies, who is a blackbird, flew over the desert to the Land of Oz and saw the Magic Belt in Ozma's palace," replied the king with a groan. "Now, that gives me an idea," said General Blug, thoughtfully. "There are two ways to get to the Land of Oz without traveling over the sandy desert." "What are they?" demanded the king, eagerly. "One way is over the desert, through the air, and the other way is under the desert."